Hey, my friends, this is Pastor Frank. You know, a lot of people have found comfort in difficult times from Psalm 121. That psalm begins with these phrases. I will look to the mountains. From whence comes my strength? My strength comes from the Lord. What does that mean? Some people believe that when we look at the mountains, and they are grand and they are big and they are majestic, that David was saying, when I look at those mountains, they help turn my thoughts towards God. After all, Romans 1 says that the invisible things of God are seen through that which has been made. And so when I look to physical mountains, I'm reminded of my great invisible God who is majestic and big. That's not a bad thought, but I don't believe that's what he was really saying. Some people say that David spent a lot of time in those mountains, on the run from Saul, on the run from various enemies. But in all those years in the mountains, God was faithful, providing for him all that he needed to sustain his life, to eventually become king. And so when David looked at those mountains, it was a reminder to David of the past faithfulness of God. Again, that's not a bad thought. It could be right. In my own heart of hearts, though, I don't believe that's what he was saying. You see, throughout the Bible in the Old Testament, there's a word called high places. And what the ancient pagan religions would do is build their temples on those high places, those mountains. And supremely, the Canaanites, which is where the Israelites eventually dwelt, was in the land of Canaan. The Canaanites built temples on high places to Asherah. They did that because they believed the temple would be closest on a mountain to the gods, who of course lived in the heavens. I think that's what David was referencing. And the punctuation that our translators have put into our translations have made it a little difficult to see that. But there wasn't punctuation like that in those original texts. This is what I think David was saying. A lot of people look to the mountains. They look to the high places. They look to Asherah and Baal and other false gods for their strength. But me, my help comes from the Lord. That's what I believe David was saying. It was a statement of contrast. It was an affirmation that he knew deep in his heart who his God was and who his God would be to him, and he would not put his faith in anyone or anything other than God to be his source of life. Well, my friends, we're in the midst of a very troubling time. And so I think that question is very well asked of us today. Who are you looking to get through these dark and desperate days? What sits on those high places? Your bank account? Your friends? Your kids? Your spouse? Your doctors? Your church? Your pastor? No. Those are all wonderful things. They are not the source. Who should we look to? To God. And you know what I love about the rest of that song? It says he never sleeps or slumbers. The reason we look to him, my friends, is he's always there. Always being who he is to us, his children. And we can apprehend him, lay hold of him in the moment of faith. Others may look to those mountains. From where does our strength come? we will get our strength from God. I trust you'll do that today, my friends, as you walk with him. And as you do, you'll find him to be all that he promises to be. And you will walk in resolute hope and stand as a light to this very dark world, and a beacon that can call those who are living in the darkness to find the same light that we have found. Find your strength in him. Bless you in Jesus' name.